All right, Kossacks. Here we go, here we go. So today we have a very special day. Our first speaker, you met her already, is Betsy Butler. Assemblywoman Betsy Butler, may I say. And she's running for a hotly contested district, California 26, which includes everywhere from Palos Verdes to Malibu, and
not Malibu, but Pacific Palisades.
Pacific Palisades, and inland to almost half of Culver City or something like that, right?
To Culver City, but not Culver City.
Not Culver City.
And then West Hollywood, Hollywood.
Okay, great. So Betsy is definitely experienced, and she has a very clear vision of where we need to go. And we need people like Betsy in Sacramento, and that's why we're here. And so I'll let Betsy speak now.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for all the incredible advocacy that you do, because we do need advocates in California to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, right? I did serve in the legislature for 2 years, and I represented the 53rd Assembly District.
Let me turn it up a little bit.
I represented the 53rd Assembly District, which was Venice and the Marina south to Torrance, so Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, Redondo, Playa del Rey, Playa Vista, all those areas. And I got 14 bills signed by the governor, mainly dealing with elders, with veterans, consumer product safety, and environmental justice matters. So I'm the person who got BPA, or bisphenol A, banned from baby bottles and sippy cups. I also am the first person who introduced a moratorium on fracking. I did that bill in 2012. I'm really, really proud of another couple of bills that I did for our elders. Making sure that one bill made sure that if an elder, a perpetrator has repeatedly stolen an ID from an elder, that the fines and the penalties are stiffer. And also, I did a bill that removed the gag rule from any nursing home settlement. So if you get a nursing home settlement and you're an elder, it used to be you couldn't ever, most settlements, you can't talk about what was involved, what happened, or you run the risk of losing that settlement. So I got the gag rule for nursing home settlements removed, allowing elders to help one another. I also got 2 veterans courts bills to the governor. Each year, I got a bill to him saying that veterans should have their special courts so they can have all the benefits and all the second chances that they possibly could be given to make sure that we keep them out of our incarceration facilities. I think that's what we owe them. I was named the Vietnam Vets Legislator of the Year my first year, and the AmVets Legislator of the Year my second year. I am on the board of Planned Parenthood presently. I'm also on the board of Equality California. I'm on the board of the Redondo Beach Veterans Memorial Task Force. Do I need a microphone? Can you hear me? Yes or no? I do? Okay. I'm also on the board of Peace Over Violence, which is an organization dealing with domestic violence issues. I'm presently the interim executive director of the California Women's Law Center, where we address issues regarding domestic violence, pay inequity, reproductive justice, and women's health care issues. And we also are focusing a lot of our time now on women and veterans issues, because we're learning so much about the needs of women vets. So I would love to go back to Sacramento to continue working on the matters that I talked about, particularly toxins. We do have a Greek chemistry initiative here in California. It needs to be more fully funded so we can look at what it is that we're consuming through our products, through the food that is grown. I'm sad that GMOs, that initiative did not pass. We need to make sure that we're giving every bit of information possible to people so they can make healthy choices, because in the long run, the incidence of cancer, the incidence of development, like with BPA obviously impedes normal human growth development in children, and the repercussions for that later in life are huge. So the more information we have, the sooner the better. And we know corporations aren't always going to give us all the information that they have. They're going to make us do the work to find that out. So I want to be someone who can be a spokesperson and an advocate for those who don't have $1 million lobbyist who want to have all the information possible so they can make good decisions for their children. And one of the things really important to me is healthcare. We know that we have national healthcare coming, and that each state is applying that as they think would work best for that population. I think California, as we work through the stipulations of national healthcare and how that's being implemented here in California, will probably move to a single-payer system. I think that we're finding out there are just too many people who aren't insured in California, and again, that's going to cost us a heck of a lot more money if we don't invest in them early on. So everyone should be insured. I'm sad to see that Ricardo Lara has a bill, Senator Ricardo Lara has a bill that makes sure that immigrants are insured, and I see that bill did not come off suspense the last 2 days. So we're going to have to continue working on those kinds of matters. I mean, it still might come off by the end of the legislative session, but we have to be ever vigilant to make sure that we have people represent us in Sacramento. They know how we feel, and that we're making sure that everybody has fair opportunity in California, which for me means health care. You know, if you don't have health care, if you can't, as a child, if you can't see this chalkboard because you don't have vision services, or you have a toothache, you can't learn if you're in pain, right? So we need to make sure that our kids have every opportunity possible to succeed in school. And I want to go back and be a fighter for everyone in the 26th Senate District, and I'd be honored to have your support. Other questions? Yes.
First off, thank you for fighting for senior citizens.
Sure.
Now, to let you know about me, I work for Social Security, and I've worked for Social Security for 35 years. And I'm glad to see Jerry Brown undoing the damage that Arnold did to people, especially on SSI, when Arnold cheated them out of a cost of living. Right now, SSI is inadequate in the state of California. With $700 and fraction dollars, you can't afford rent. You can barely make, especially the average rent here in Los Angeles now, $1,800.
Right.
And I'm saying SSI right now is inadequate. I just wanted to let you be aware of that we really need to increase the size of the state supplement here in California, especially for the seniors and the disabled people.
Right.
So I appreciate that you consider it.
Well, and here's a bigger situation to consider. And we do have a healthcare crisis, we know that, but we have an elder care crisis too. The fact is that we have 10,000 people a day turning 65 in this country for 18 years. And you're absolutely right. Governor Schwarzenegger wanted to get rid of the in-home support services program. Yes. He said, let's just get rid of it, which was crazy considering most of that funding comes from the federal government. And at the time, it was 450,000 people who relied on the fact that they could stay in their home every day because someone came in to help them shop, help them do their laundry, whatever assistance that they needed, allow them to be independent and stay in their home. So if you took away that assistance, they would have to be institutionalized, or they're out on the street, right? And that was many years ago. So we have even more people now who need some type of assistance, and it's a very costly program. And I'll tell you the reason why I worked so hard to make sure the gag rule was taken away from nursing home settlements was that my father suffered from Alzheimer's. For 17 years, we as a family dealt with his needs and his care. Closer to the end of his life, the last 2 years of his life, his care was costing us about $6,000 a month, and his care was substandard. It was he was neglected, he was abused. He lived about 2 miles from my mother. She did not get to his home every day, but when she did, and several times when I was with her, we found him in conditions that were absolutely unacceptable. And so because of all that, because of the heartbreak that I had, just wondering if my father was laying in his own stuff all day, not being fed, not being clothed, these are horrible things to think about, particularly when this is supposed to be the best care. It's $6,000 a month. It's not covered by insurance. So knowing that we have a lot of people aging in the state, we have some real considerations to work on with regard to the needs of our citizenry. So yes, we have to address our elder care issues very seriously because it's very, very important. Yeah.
The second thing is Arnold furloughed disability determination service workers. So when people filed for disability claims in California, the workers were furloughed by I think it was once every 10 days. So their claims were taking longer and longer. And what I would hope people like you would consider is to make sure that nobody can furlough disability determination service workers again. Because when people are waiting 5, 6, 7 months to get a decision, how are they live?
Well, actually, what I think we've learned from the last budget impasse is that furloughs don't work across the board. Anytime, even if you just furlough a person 1 day a month, you are setting everyone back. So far, it's not fair. There's no justice in it, and particularly with our court system. Okay, so even if you go dark one Wednesday a month, you have so set back so many issues. Whether it's child care, it's temporary restraining orders, whatever it is. The fact of the matter is that you have now put a system out of whack that is already extended anyway, and so. And I fully believe that justice delayed is justice denied, and that's true for everything. We found out that through those furloughs, they had to go out and hire consultants to get the work done, right? So you're not saving any money. So we know now that the furloughs don't work, and we just need to be smart about how we tax in this state. We need to be committed to the programs and the people that live here, right? Education's another one. We have to have consistent funding for education. No matter what the economic situation is, and there are ways to do that. And I think closing the loopholes of Prop 13, the corporate loopholes, long overdue. Is something that needs to happen, and I hope that this governor will support it when it comes to it. The legislature is working on a bill. Do you all know that they're working on a bill? Even Howard Jarvis took their opposition off this bill. So did the Chambers of Commerce.
This is for split roll.
Yes, just split roll. The corporations, exactly. So there is progress on it, and we'll see if it gets all the way through.
Yeah, it's very stupid that Disneyland is taxed a fraction of what California Adventure is taxed on.
Well, yes, there's a lot of issues with Prop 13, and I should say though that anytime you pass really big legislation like that in a state like California, there should probably be a sunset or review period built into every single one of them, because 30 or 40 years from now, whatever we pass will not be applicable in the way that it is now that we're passing it, right? And so we need to be bigger thinkers and have a vision about, what is going to be best for the people down the line, and have those things built into big pieces of legislation. Yes.
Is the Veterans Administration buildings in Westwood, is that in your district?
Yes, it is.
How do you intend to interact, with the VA in light of what's been happening in Arizona and the other states, to keep that from, who knows whether it's happening at that facility or not? What's your feelings on that?
I can tell you, I did a lot of veterans town halls when I was in the legislature, and in 2012, February of 2012, we had a VA administrator come over and tell the veterans that I had asked to come to this meeting. There was about 100 of them, because we were trying to explain to them all the benefits that they could have and all the possibilities that they had available to them as veterans. And the VA administrator said, just know that we will get to your case within the next year and a half or 2 years. And it was just stated like that was supposed to be acceptable. At that same time, there literally was a floor that had collapsed in a VA building somewhere in the United States, because it had so many files in it that it actually collapsed because they weren't moving, right? We know now that veterans who have died are not being moved. I mean, the things that we're doing or not doing for veterans is despicable. And with the VA campus itself, though, we know that the federal government has said that land needs to stay open to veterans, and we need to be ever committed to them. And what we're learning about women too, and women veterans' needs, they cannot be housed with men. Most of them have suffered, 79% of the women who have served have suffered sexual trauma, 79%. Something like 45% have been raped at least twice. Okay, so so now they're feeling more comfortable about talking about it. That's why the cases are off the charts with regard to percentages. But we need to understand their needs, and they cannot be housed with men, okay? So we're gonna have to, every month we learn more and more about the needs of both male and female veterans, and we're gonna have to take this very, very seriously. These are people who serve this country and deserve every benefit possible. So the homelessness is off the charts too. We have to address all these issues, yes.
Yeah, no, the PTSD from returning vets, they need to get into group counseling. They need to get in within 7 days of returning or separation from service. And it's happening, 6-9 months later down the road.
Yeah.
And that's just pathetic to me.
And then they're saying, okay, you can have 12 sessions, but they actually need a heck of a lot more than that. And you don't just have someone go through 12 sessions. So there are a number of colossal problems with our veterans getting care. And I have to say, that's what was very frustrating for me when I did the veterans bill both years, and the governor vetoed those bills, because if any of you know Judge Wendy Lindley down in Orange County, you know that she has a very successful program for veterans, and that most of them, like her recidivism rate is like 0.01 or something. It's very, very small. It's very rare that the 50 people who are going through her program recommit or do not follow the rules, and they are given every benefit. There's a veteran service officer there, there's a probation officer, the judge. They're all there to make sure these veterans get everything they need, and that's why I wanted to make sure there was a veterans court in every county in the state. Right now, of the 58 counties, only 18 counties have them, and they vary in levels of success, right? So I wanted to make sure that our veterans are taken out of our institutional system and given a second chance. Another bill that I did get signed by the governor gives judges the ability to decide if a veteran has PTSD and has committed a crime. That judge can decide whether to waive that crime and say, okay, if you stay on the straight and narrow and you don't recommit, we'll forget that it's there. However, if they recommit, it will come back. So that allows that veteran to have a second chance. Again, it's only up to the judge's discretion. It's not not every veteran will benefit from it, but it is up to the judge to decide. I also did a bill that puts a veteran service officer in every incarceration facility in the state, so they can still help a veteran begin to plan what they're going to do when they get out 6 months before they're released from prison or jail, so that they can decide if they want to use the GI Bill. Do they need housing? What do they need to not come back to an incarceration facility? Yes.
And, going back to the PTSD issue, I have a friend who's kind of a younger Iraq vet, and he came back, I think, in '07. And he did get pretty quick psychological evaluation and treatment, and that consisted of the meds, the Xanax, the Ambien, all this stuff. And he was on about 8 or 9 different meds, and he attempted suicide twice, lost his job, the wife took off, and then another friend of ours said, hey, we got to get you on the medical marijuana. And it happened, and within a month, he was kind of getting a lot more stable. He knocked off all the psychotropic meds, and 6 months later, the wife came back. He has his family together. He's been working steady, no issues, no nightmares at night. And I know the VA is trying to address to do some testing, for medical marijuana patients, but I think the VA needs to kind of start embracing that part of it, that kind of a treatment now, because there's so many useful ingredients in it that can help with such a variety of problems with returning vets.
I know that the VA is looking at a lot of different ways to treat veterans, including they're doing a lot of actually exercise like Tai Chi. They're also doing a lot of acupuncture and acupressure now. They're basically doing whatever they can to assist a veteran. So I'm sure medical marijuana is part of that possibility. Yes.
Part of the role of the legislature is to oversee the functions of the state. I'm wondering if you have ideas about how better to deal with the very important but very troubled state parks department, because a lot of us care a lot about California state parks, which are amazing, but they've had trouble with funding, and it's hard to ask more funding when some of it seems to not be going where it should go.
Okay, so state parks. We are blessed on so many levels for the state parks that exist in California. First of all, it's therapeutic for us, but they're also great places for tourists to go, and everyone wants our parks open, right? I actually sat on budget sub 3 when the state park situation happened, and I mean the situation where they found that extra money. Of course, we were in a dire budget situation, and we found the money one week, and the next week the governor had taken it because he could. But we have to find ways to fund our parks and keep them open and keep them free. So it has to be a consistent priority for the state, and we need to fund it. I mean, period. It's interesting too. When I was on the budget sub 3 committee, there was one kind of park that was a money maker. It was the off-road vehicle park. Yeah, and they make tons of money. So we were thinking about how to mix that into the regular park situation, and then, as I said, the governor took that money. But you know, those parks do make money, and perhaps that money all needs to go right back into our other parks. There needs to be a real dedication to our parks, most definitely. Yes.
I know that so many of these valuable programs are in need of funding. Are there any programs that you feel we're overfunding?
Well, you know, I should tell you that the last 2 years that I was in the 2 years that I was in the legislature was the last two of a 5-year budget cut. $56 billion they cut over 5 years. And California's budget ranges from about the low 80s to the low 100s generally. So to cut $56 billion, everything was cut. In fact, we were proud of ourselves that we could keep a program from being just completely gotten rid of, because once it's gone, you're never bringing it back. So even when you look at things like in-home support services or our courts, our courts were cut almost $500 million, right? 125 my first year and 250 my second year. Okay, now the governor, even though we do have more money, he's saying, okay, he says to the Chief Justice, okay, I'll give you 160 million. She's saying, yeah, she's saying I need 240 to even keep the doors open and 600 to even make up for what we lost, right? So, and this goes to the rainy day fund conversation. I am all for a rainy day fund, and I'm not for spending everything that we have. But again, if we don't put in minimum amounts of some of these programs, the repercussions for not investing in them are going to be so much bigger on the other end. And healthcare is like that, right? Right. We know that we need healthcare in this country, in this state, because it's cheaper to make sure people have preventative medicine, have medicine when they need it, instead of showing up in our emergency rooms, on our streets, or having other issues, right? So we are an educated, wealthy society. We need to take care of people, right? And that's true with just about any program. So I can't tell you that there's a program that's overfunded. I can tell you there are probably programs that need to be audited to see if there's ways they could save money. But remember, in California, we fund 3 things. We fund education, corrections, and health and human services, right? Education is over 50% of the budget. And I don't think anyone at this table can say that we've overfunded education. We are always at the bottom. We can all say that public education isn't going so well for our kids, and then we will agree on nothing else about how to fix it, okay? All we can say is that we need to do better, but I can tell you that even if we were to just throw money in education, it's not going to be a waste of money, because we don't pay our teachers enough, we don't give enough resources to our students, and yes, so I am certain there is probably a program or two that should be better run. And here's the other thing. The reason I got so involved with veterans was because of our corrections budget. We're spending $50,000 per inmate and $10,000 per student, okay?